and I just hear the main nurse saying, "You better start pushing, because if you're not going to push, your baby is going to suffocate." I'm so excited to share Viktor's birth story with you. Welcome back to Baby Bump Vlog. This is not only going to be a pregnancy vlog after David is born, I'm going to be continuing with this vlog. I really enjoy documenting our journey. The motherhood journey is just incredible. And when Viktor was born in 2013, I didn't have a vlog. Obviously, I started that a few months ago, and it's just been so enjoyable documenting what I go through, milestones in my children's lives. It's awesome. Welcome to Baby Bump Vlog. If you're not subscribed yet and you really like this content, please subscribe, hit the bell, and you'll be notified whenever there's new vlogs. I'm trying to stay consistent with doing vlogs, because I feel like so much happens in life that if you're not consistent, things get lost a bit. So please excuse the sound today. I've tried and tried again, but the thing is, I'm house sitting my parents' house. They went away, and the neighbors' dogs, especially the one dog, excuse me, incessantly barks. And I've joined him now. So it's just pointless to try to refilm, because, you know, it's his vibe. He likes barking. There's nothing wrong with him. He just really loves barking. So while he expresses himself, I'm going to express myself and tell you guys about Viktor's birth story. So the 21st of November 2013 was a really exciting day for me. Not only was it my mom's 50th birthday, but it would have also been the first time that they saw in real life a scan of their first grandchild. And also, Viktor's father is a foreign national, which came to South Africa in September. But he also hadn't seen a live scan of his son. So it was just really exciting. Everybody came with me to hospital, and it was really exciting. We went for the scan, and we all noticed the doctors start looking at each other and chatting, and they're like, "Margaret, we'd like to hospitalize you for the night." And I just start bawling. I'm like, it's my mother's 50th birthday. And they're like, yeah, anyway, so we want to do a few tests on you. And I'm like, what do you mean? What are you testing for? And they're like, well, it seems that you might have gestational diabetes. So to cut a long story short, I slept over, they tested me, and it was confirmed, yes, I have gestational diabetes. And that was a shock. Anything diabetes related is like a red flag, because my mom's sister died from related complications of diabetes at the age of 38. So it's really something that triggers me whenever I hear diabetes, especially when you're pregnant, because we all know that it's not only you anymore. It's you and your babies. So obviously that was, I hated that, just to be absolutely 100% forthright as to how I felt. I hated it. And they gave me a diet plan, etc. But they said, we're going to induce you on the 5th of December. And Viktor would be 35 weeks. And I was like, what? And they're like, well, the baby is getting too big. So for your health and for his health, the safest option is going to be to induce at 35 weeks. No birthing class, no other mother could ever tell you what the experience of giving birth would be like. not in any capacity, not really what would it be like in a public hospital, private hospital, at home, medicated, unmedicated. It's just something that's so personal that each experience is unique, even for mothers that have multiple children. Each experience is unique. That's what I've heard from mommies. And nothing could have really prepared me for what lay ahead of me. So we get to the hospital on the 5th of December, and they take me to this room which has 4 beds in the labor ward. First things first, I thought that they give you an individual room. First misconception. So we sharing a room, and it wasn't like the time that I was admitted now, where I was talking to everyone and going through experiences together, etc. The first time I wasn't really invested in having too much conversation with anybody, because Pablo, as I've said, he triangulates between America, Mexico, and Colombia. He is Mexican Colombian. So he was pretty much parked out in the hospital, and he'd had a fight with my father, so he didn't want to go back to my parents' house, and also he didn't want to miss the birth of his firstborn son. So he was literally camping out in the hospital. Like, security didn't even know. He gained entrance literally on the 5th of December, and he only left when Viktor was born. But I'll get into that. So induction starts by them giving me this solution to drink. I feel like they gave it to me every 3 hours, but it's not like I was literally documenting it the way that I document everything about this pregnancy. It helps having a vlog and just recording your life. That's why this is not going to remain a pregnancy vlog, but it's going to become a mom vlog, because I enjoy having all my memories in a factual capacity. So they give me the solution, I think, probably every 3 hours. And the 5th of December is just, happening. And as most of us know, that's the day that Nelson Mandela passed away. So later the day, because this is what happened, I kept telling the nurses that I want to see Pablo. And then when they were like, no, but blah, 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 then I'm like, yeah, but he's a foreign national. I don't want him to feel weird waiting here or whatever. And then later, when I knew he had to actually be out the hospital already, I told the nurses that I was walking around because I wanted to speed labor up. So whenever they took the machine off that monitors baby's heartbeat and just also my vitals, whenever they took it off, I was like a crazed person, left the labor ward, up and down stairs looking for Pablo, and we just walked through the entire hospital on the 5th of December. We even found a floor with TVs on it, and we just saw the whole unfolding event of Nelson Mandela's death. It was a very strange feeling, a very somber feeling that was in the air, and people were reverent. It was a very interesting day, and I actually thought that, strangely enough, I had this thought that if Viktor is born today, nobody would ever forget his birthday. So the 5th of December came and went, and nothing happened. Dololo, nothing. So the 6th of December came and went with the exact same ritual of me leaving the labor ward, looking for Pablo, us going to the shop, drinking a cool drink or whatever, having a toasted sandwich, chatting. And a lot of older people tell you, and also the nurses, that when you start walking, and especially doing stairs, that definitely speeds up labor. So I was feeling good about my decision of walking up and down. So this whole routine continues, and it's really starting to get on the nerves of the nurses and the doctors. And at that point in my life, I just couldn't understand why it was getting on their nerves. Because I was thinking, you know what, Pablo came from far away. I can't just leave him to walk around in this hospital for the past 2 days alone, etc. However, it's so funny and interesting how we as people have the ability to evolve. And I read this amazing quote that said that humility and teachability go together. So it's not necessary that age changes you, or even that experience can change you. It's your level of humility that allows you to be teachable, and then subsequently to use your experiences and time to the positive. However, they start getting annoyed with me, and they're like, okay, well, you're going to stay in the labor ward now, and you're not going anywhere anymore. And I'm like, okay, cool. So that happened. And by the end of day 2, which is the 6th of December, they're like, you know what, your water hasn't broken, and you've been on 2 centimeters dilation now for the past few hours, and we're not really seeing any progression here. So we want you to sign this piece of paper because we've decided that you need an emergency C-section. Yet again, freaking out. I start crying. I'm like, well, it wasn't part of my birth plan, and blah, blah, blah. It's so ridiculous when I think of it now, because whatever happens, happens. I mean, I did tell them if my baby is in danger, obviously, I would do a C-section. But my initial reaction before coming to that point of lucidity 20 seconds later was just like, no, it's not part of my birth plan. Healing from it takes so much longer. I had this preconceived notion about C-sections. And I was so adamant in having a natural birth. Also, I was shooting a movie called Run or Die 6 weeks later, and I knew that I had to jump off a waterfall. So just a lot of factors weighed into me saying, no, I didn't want a C-section, an elective C-section. And they're like, well, this is an elective. It is an emergency. So I'm like, okay, you know what? May I just call my mom quickly and I'll sign. Obviously, I'll sign. I want the best for my baby and obviously myself. So I call my mom and she says, could you ask them just as a last resort to rupture the membrane, to break your water manually? And I asked them and they said yes. And they did it. And oh, that was just the next level. The floodgates opened and it was from 0 to 100 in just like a second. I went from 2 centimeters to 4 centimeters dilation in less than half an hour. And at that point, they said, well, now you get a private room. When you are 4 centimeters, or whenever they realize you're 4 centimeters, they take you to the birthing room, like the labor room. And that's where you give birth. And then your partner is allowed to be with you. So I'm like, okay. And automatically I just hear partner. And I get off the bed and I start trying to walk to Pablo. trying to get him. And they're like, no. And I'm like, but what if he came here all the way from Mexico and he's not going to see the birth of his son? Because the active labor had started. And as most of you watching this vlog knows, it's just an indescribable feeling. You have this feeling of wanting to go to the bathroom, but even if the nurses do allow you, which they don't at this point, then because they're scared you might actually give birth whilst you're on the toilet, you feel like you want to go to the bathroom or to the toilet, but nothing happens, but the pain just doesn't go away. And then every few seconds, that's why I'm saying, like, no birth class could have ever prepared me for this feeling, because they tell you that everything's going to be okay, and cognitively you know this, and you keep trying to remind yourself, I'm going to be okay. But no, for me, no logical thoughts were actually coming to my mind, because it's such a physical thing that your whole body just starts contracting into one little ball, and then you're like, and when you relax, it feels like you are being born. You're like, it is a next level. And so they go fetch Pablo. He comes in, and in the labor room, they put me on a drip, because they're like, we believe that mummies with gestational diabetes should be on a glucose drip. So they put me on a drip, but things are escalating at this point so quickly. And I'm telling Pablo, the moment they leave, I'm telling him, please go call the nurses. Like, I feel our son is coming. And he's like, no, it can't be. They were just here. They just gave you the drip. They're the medical professionals. I don't want you to upset them. Just please, let me hold your hand. Let's breathe, Margaret. And he goes through all the breathing exercises that he learned at birthing class. And none of that helped me. I remember at some point, I was just with my hands in the air, going like, I can in no way relate to movies that I've seen of women screaming or having the power to like, when they give birth, because for me, that was not the case at all. I was entirely unmedicated by choice. I told them that I do not want to have any form of painkiller, not even Panado. So I was entirely unmedicated, and at that point super tired, because I hadn't been sleeping for like 2.5 days, going on the third day, also by choice, because I wanted to be with Pablo. I didn't want him to walk around alone. But so I was tired, unmedicated, and the pain was literally on such a level that the only thing that I could do was barely breathe and whimper in my home language, which is Afrikaans. God, please be with me. Please let my son be born. And I just remember like going from side to side. I was feeling frustrated because Pablo was not about to call the nurses. He definitely said that I'm going to get us all in trouble by wanting the nurses to come check how far I was dilated. And so I took my gown off. It just felt like even the gown that I was wearing was hurting my skin. I couldn't even ingest water. It felt like the water that went down my throat was hurting me. And at some point, I'm like, now I feel it. I feel I need to push. And I tell him I can't help it because I knew that they had told us, do not push before we tell you that you're ready to push, because your baby can come out with a cone-shaped head. So don't push. And I remember this, and I'm like, no, but when do you actually know or not know? Because I really just have this absolute feeling of pushing right now. I'm not even pushing, my body is pushing. So now I'm just, and next level, I rip out the drip, the IV. I rip it out so that blood just splatters everywhere. And I hear Pablo running out of the room screaming, she's crazy, she's crazy. And nurses rush in there. And they're like, why did you do this? What's wrong with you? And I'm like, look. And they look. And my baby is coming. Before that, I'd asked them if they were going to knip me or whatever to help the process. And they said, no, well, when the time comes, it was too late for that. Spoiler alert, this is a birth story, so we're going to get quite graphic right now. At that point, I'd already torn. So they realized, okay, the baby really is coming. There I am, just totally bare, naked, blood spraying everywhere, no IV in sight, and my son is coming. No point of return. And I just hear them like going crazy, like calling each other, the nurses. And a student nurse came in, and she was down there. And this is the funny thing about giving birth. Pablo even brought a camera because he wanted to document it. But it happened so quickly. And when I looked at his face, he looked so scared. He literally just looked like, I can never forget that face. I'm sure that if I saw somebody I love giving birth to my child, it would also be something awe-inspiring and amazing. And I don't even know, majestic. So he looked at me with those kind of eyes, and he didn't have time to take the camera out because I told him, like, I didn't even tell them, they saw, and I was like, I'm gonna push. And the first push happens, and Viktor comes out a little bit, and he goes back in. And I just hear the main nurse saying, you better start pushing, because if you're not going to push, your baby is going to suffocate. When I heard that, I grabbed Pablo's hand and I squeezed him as hard as I could. I took a breath. Obviously, I waited for the next contraction. I took a deep breath. I pushed for the second time. I kept it, and then the third push, I pushed and I screamed. Now I understand the scream. It's like the roar of a lioness. And I screamed. And Viktor was up to here, and they pulled him out. So they hand Viktor to me, and they place him on my breast, and he starts suckling. The nurse helped me with that. And I don't know, they left him on me for, I don't know, a few seconds or 2 minutes but that was just the most beautiful, deep experience that I had ever felt in my life. The pain was totally gone. And it was just this deepest connection to myself that I had ever felt, to someone else I had ever felt, and to God that I had ever felt up until that point. And that is definitely the moment that changed my life forever, is holding Viktor for the first time and him drinking from me. It just was a life changer. And they took him and they did all the tests they do, the Abhar test, etc. And I just felt 100% without pain after that. And just to start cutting the story short, they took him away and Viktor was in neonatal ICU for 2 days after that, and in high care for 9 days after that. So 11 days in total, because they said that he had hypoglycemia, which he developed from me having gestational diabetes, not knowing it, and not having any treatment plan whatsoever. And that was a really emotional time for me, because they only let me sleep over for one night, and he wasn't in the same room as me. And then obviously, because he was in neonatal ICU. But then after that, he was there and I could visit him every day. So I was there daily from early in the morning up until when they wanted the mommies to leave, because when you breastfeed, they want you to express so that you can feed your baby, and it definitely helps with the baby receiving not only the perfect nutrition from you, but also your antibodies, etc. It's also for bonding experience. But for the first few days, I wasn't able to even touch Viktor. He was in a words are not my friend at all. Whatever. I'm just thinking in Afrikaans. Broeikas. So I couldn't touch him, but it was amazing to see that my baby was alive, because obviously as a mother sitting in that room expressing milk, you get to know the other mothers, and there were other mothers there whose children didn't make it. So I was just so thankful that my child was healthy. Obviously, paranoia sets in after day whatever. I mean, after 11 days, I started thinking, okay, is he going to be, why aren't they letting him go? Because now the hypoglycemia is sorted out, but now he has jaundice. Then I just kept feeling like he was staying. He was that. So eventually, day 11, they released him, and I was just so thankful that my son was alive and healthy. And Viktor was born 3 minutes after 3 in the morning. His head circumference was also 33 centimeters. He was born on the 7th of December. My beautiful, beautiful Viktor Alexander Vergara. My firstborn son. Light in my life. Vickles, mommy loves you so much. I'm not even sure why I'm crying. But I love you so much, my son. You're such a joy in my life. You teach me so much. The experiences that you have that I get to share in is such an absolute privilege for me to have. And you were a game changer, my boy. You changed my life. You changed my perspective. And you are the first person that has given me unconditional love. And for that, I want to thank you for always and ever. I will love you and I will cherish you. And I'm so happy that we love God, because we will be together forever and ever in eternity. So that is Viktor's birth story, and it was a really beautiful event in my life. But that was also a very tumultuous time in my life when my father wasn't speaking to me for the entire 11 days that Viktor was in hospital. Thankfully, my mother was a pillar of strength for me during that time, and I would never forget the support and love she gave to me during that time. Also, things were really strained at home during that time between Pablo and both my parents, but especially my father. And so it put a lot of pressure on me having to deal with just having given birth and my son being in hospital, me not having taken my firstborn son home, him being in high care, and just this horrible vibe at home that really had a very negative impact on my mood. But I was just so thankful that my son was alive that I remained positive throughout, and I was, in a weird sense, happy throughout because I was just so thankful that Viktor was healthy. So even though that was something that I definitely resented, I was still able to be happy about my son being born. And speaking about birth, I really, really am happy that I could give natural birth and that I could do it unmedicated, because that was my whole thing throughout. I said that I didn't want myself to be medicated because I didn't want my son to have any drugs in his system when he was born. It was just because of personal things that I've been through in life. But having said that, and also having said that I enjoyed the experience, I now know that you do whatever you need to do in the best interest of your child, and life changes at a dime. There are no guarantees. You could have the best birth plan, the best birth team, but if something happens and you need to have an emergency cesarean or whatever, anything could happen while you're giving birth. So that gave me a totally different expectancy on childbirth. Going into my second pregnancy, I just knew that I'm going to be humble about this, and whatever the doctors decide to do is in the best interest of myself and my baby, and I would be accepting of that. So that experience definitely changed my mindset with regard to C-sections. I'm still very scared of C-sections. My mother's father was deathly afraid of anesthesia, and that is something that I share with him. I don't have fears. I'm just not a fearful person. But if I have to be totally honest, I do really not like / have fear of anesthesia in any way, like any form of anesthesia. So that is definitely a mental challenge for me now going into my second birthing story for David. I realized that I'm more open-minded and that whatever doctors need to do, they need to do. But that doesn't mean that I'm not scared of a C-section. I definitely am. I'm definitely just, I have these, probably to other people, they would think they're irrational fears. Like, I'm not even going to share it on this platform. I don't know, should I share it? No, I'm not even going to articulate it. But I am mentally trying to prepare myself for a C-section. Obviously, I want to give natural birth, but if that is not on the cards, then whatever God sees as the best option is the option that I'm going to go with. And I'm just going to trust in Him. So yes, that is my birthing story. I love being a mother. I love just this whole experience of pregnancy. It's such a beautiful experience, and it's just so mind-blowing how the moment that Viktor was out, the pain was gone. Okay, until until an hour and a half later when they, spoiler alert, graphic nature, when they stitched me back up again. That was really painful. Okay, I wanted to say it's more painful than giving birth, but it's just a different kind of pain. So that was really painful, but it's so bizarre. The moment you hold your baby and your baby starts suckling on you, the hormones just start flashing through your body and the pain is gone, and you would do it all over again. And I'm so happy that I could do it all over again now and be blessed with a second child, and that my beautiful firstborn will be a big brother. And I'm excited, Vickles, for your birthday this year. I think we're going to do a Titanic themed birthday party. Love being a mom. Thank you for joining me on Baby Bump Vlog. If you're not subscribed yet, please subscribe. Join me on my journey. Join us on our journey. And thank you so much. Mwah.